I always thought about harming myself.
I'm shy. I struggled with making friends.
I never thought I could do anything. I have extremely low self esteem.
Lately, I've been eating my pain away. Just throw it back up. I've been struggling to lose weight. Somebody said I don't fit in just because I wear my hair the way I like it.
1 out of 5 American girls suffer from mental health problems. Don't be that girl. Talk to someone.
Those thoughts I had are long gone, for I have a future I need to get to.
In order to get better, I had to do better. I learned how to make friends.
I believe in myself. That's when everyone else did, I set an example.
Instead of me eating everything, I started watching my calories. The weight is falling off.
I went to change my hair, but I decided it was for me. It's for me.
A PSA from the Curvy Girl Project.
Peace and blessings, and welcome to Expose Under the Sun, sponsored by the Detroit Native Sun newspaper. I'm your host, Darwin Griffin, and we've got a very, very entertaining as well as informational half hour that we're going to present to you today. You are watching us live in the phenomenal cities of Detroit, Michigan, under the auspices of the Honorable Mayor Mike Duggan, as well as the phenomenal city of Highland Park, Michigan, under the auspices of the Honorable Mayor Glenda McDonald. But again, I just want to let everyone know that our show is live, and what we want everyone to do is to realize that there's a lot of information that you can be able to go and listen to. This broadcast will be republished, and you'll get an opportunity to go and get some good information, and it could be some information that you want to pass on to other people, at the same time with my special guest. And my special guest, her name is Diane Shepard, and she's a nurse, and she does a lot of community involvement, and she makes certain that as a nurse, she is in the business of wellness, and she makes certain in terms of say that a person's well-being is kept up to date through the medication that they take, as well as the care that she disseminates to them at the same time and advises them to do to be able to go and maintain a wellness plan. But today she's going to talk about her life journey and some of the experiences that she's gone through, that hopefully it can be able to go and give a person an opportunity to realize they're not alone in whatever they may be going through, and they also can get an opportunity to talk to others, because you never know what somebody's face may hide, what somebody's face may be the shield of for some of the inner turmoil, as well as some of the inner pain that they may be going through at the present time. But I want to turn this over to my special guest. Her name is Diane Shepard. Diane Shepard, welcome to Expose Under the Sun today.
Thank you so much, Darwin, and thanks so much for the invite.
Well, tell us a little bit about who Diane Shepard is.
Well, Diane Shepard, I was born and raised in Detroit, conceived in East St. Louis, Illinois, but my mother came here in time enough to give birth to me here in Detroit, Michigan. I was born right there on Claremont. My hospital is still standing. I was born at the Henry Ford Hospital on the Boulevard, and I still have roots in that area because that's where my beginning began.
So take us through your childhood.
So my childhood started off as I'm the baby on my dad's side of the family, and that is the side of the family that I grew up on. My mother was concealing the pregnancy, so I had a twin, but my twin didn't make it because there was no prenatal care because she didn't want anybody to know that she was pregnant, but she wanted to have children.
How old was your mother at the time?
She was 26,
Okay.
about 25, 26, because when I was born, she was 26.
Okay.
So she was concealing the pregnancy. Her and my dad was living an alternative lifestyle, so she did not want to face maybe having to give up a child or something of that sort.
Now, when you say about in terms of concealing the pregnancy, what possibly could have been the repercussions of her actually had people known that she was pregnant?
Well, at that time, my dad had other ladies as well, and she didn't want to have to abort me because to make the other ladies jealous. So that would have been the repercussions. But once the pregnancy was found out, my dad thought it would be best that her mother had passed when she was 2. So his mom and his sister lived here in the Detroit area, and he thought it would be best that I would be born around them so that she could have some help and guidance with the latter part of the pregnancy.
Okay. So, and now you said that you were a twin.
Yes, I was.
So, when we're talking about twins, and that's something that sometimes I think people, they say that the senses are heightened because they were a twin or because they are a twin. And do you ever feel that, in terms of say that you may kind of have a extra intuition on some things, or your senses or your thoughts about things may be kind of heightened because you and your sister were, conceived at the same time?
Well, I did. I always have felt a heightened sense. I felt, I was always an old soul, as they would call the babies. I have twin grandsons now, and one of the grandsons, he's an old soul. So I really do believe that when I was coming up, I got pegged the nickname Granny early in life, like when I was in junior high. So
so for the young people like Henry Tyler,
Yeah.
Our engineer here today,
Yes.
explain what a old soul is.
So an old soul is a young person, like a young person in a young body, but there seems to be wise beyond their years.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So go ahead, continue then about your childhood, man.
Yeah. So with that, so I came up here. In the Metro Detroit area, living with my aunt for the first 3 years of life. Her and my uncle. He worked for Chrysler. So my aunt was a homemaker. I went back to East St. Louis from age 3 to 6 because my mom, she hadn't had a lot of time with me, and she had come to visit me here in Michigan and was feeling as though she wanted to spend some time with me, so she took me back to East St. Louis, and I stayed with her for about the first month, and then my dad came and got me, and I was with him for the next 3 years, so age 3 to 6. But during that time, during birth on until like 6 years old, I was always like a frequent flyer. Back then, the airlines that was popular was TWA. So I was a frequent flyer, so much so if my grandmother couldn't travel with me to bring me back and forth from East St. Louis to Detroit, then my dad had formed relationships with different women who were the flight attendants.
Okay.
And if she was unavailable to fly with me, then I would fly with one of them. They would know that I was on the plane and keep an eye on me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then, after your frequent flyer points that you would probably have gotten, then talk about your terms say school, because with doing all that frequent flying,
Yes.
I'm sure that had to affect your school and
Yes.
your education.
So my very first school that I went to was here in the Detroit area. It was called Brady Elementary, and I went there for preschool. The preschool was in a little building in the back of the elementary school. So my preschool years was there. By the time I got to East St. Louis, I went to my first and second grade. I went to a school in East St. Louis, Illinois. Then came back here, third and fourth grade. I went to Horace Mann School in Detroit on the west side. And from that point, my grandmother had, she got married, she got remarried, and she had asked, her and my granddad had asked, could I stay for good here in Michigan with them. So from fifth grade on through fifth grade, I went to St. Suzanne's. And then I went from St. Suzanne's to Bishop Borges High School, and that's where I graduated from.
So talk in terms here about, so how much interaction did you have with your father during that time?
During that time, I always had interaction with my dad. You know, this was his parents, this was his family. So my frequent flying didn't stop then. But it just became more of a family thing. So my family, my grandparents, my aunt and uncle, we would take road trips to East St. Louis, Illinois, and we would go down there and we would stay for like a couple weeks at a time. I would go there for the holidays sometimes. And when I was about 14, my dad, he came here to Detroit. He decided that it was time for him to come and be around me permanently for my latter years, and he came here to Detroit. He moved here, and at that time he moved in with my grandparents, that's who I was staying with, his parents, and until he got him a place here in Detroit.
So give me one word that probably would best describe your father.
Well, dad girl. I'm a dad girl. Yes. Whenever I think of my dad, I just, it was nothing that my dad could do that was wrong.
Well, that's the thing a lot of people say, that a girl's first love is their father.
Yes.
But the only thing about that sometimes is that it can be a little bit too intense, in terms of, say, with the relationship between the father and the daughter. Was that something that you may have experienced?
I would say yes. Because, if you are a dad girl, like in my situation, coming up when it was time to start dating, there was no one who was good enough for me, according
to your father.
According
Right.
to my father. And at the time, my grandfather either, because my grandfather was very, had his thumb on me, as well. So,
and sometimes that can, and sometimes did you find yourself, like, how do I say it, rebelling against, like, if they
Yes.
said to you they didn't want you dating that young man or dating
Yes.
that boy, that you kind of said, I'm going to do it anyways.
Yes.
They don't know what I like or who I like, and
Yes.
I'm going to do what I think is right for me.
yes, I definitely did experience that.
So were there any repercussions that occurred if you went out with somebody that they had forbade you to go
yeah.
out with?
So yes, when I graduated from high school, I dated someone who was a street guy, and my dad was not, he wasn't feeling that guy at all, but the repercussions was that guy, he was very physically abusive. So that was a time in my life that I was very young, and I probably was around 18, 19 years old, and I learned domestic violence dealing with this man.
So when you were going through what you were going through with this man, did you have anybody that you felt comfortable going to tell what was going on?
Well,
I mean, especially because of, like, your father had forbade you to,
Yeah.
to see this man.
yeah,
And now here you're still doing something contrary to what he has suggested,
Yeah.
for you to do. Who could you go to? Who could you turn to?
well, the guy, he was very protective at the time. Like, if he did hit me, and I remember one time I had a black eye, and it was around the Memorial Day holiday. And my family always came together on the holidays. That was just our thing. We always came together. And I wasn't able to go. He had someone to, I wanted to get out because they were doing what they do. So, you know, he didn't want me around at that time. But he sent one of his goons, so to speak, to keep an eye on me. He allowed me to go to the movies. It was the Mercury back then.
Up on Schaefer.
Yeah, on
Okay.
Schaefer. So I went to the Mercury to watch a movie by myself while his person watched me in the background to make sure that I did not leave nor make any phone calls to my family.
So how did you feel?
I was afraid. I felt afraid, and you know, and it was something new to me because I had always been around my family.
And how old were you at the time?
I was about 19.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what became of that young man?
Well, what became of that was, you know, there was a beating that was very brutal, and I had to call my dad because he was in my car, and my dad had to come and get me from Ypsilanti. He had placed me in Ypsilanti, and my dad came up there to get me, and my dad had an extra key to my car. We went and we got my car, and after that, I'm not going to say I didn't go back because I did go back once after that. My dad had words with him because it was one of those things where when I went back to him, you know, then I'm really going outside of my family. You know what I'm saying? So I'm trying to run home and grab some clothes and trying to be out of there. But my grandmother called my dad and said, "Hey, he over here." So when I got
So
there,
what was going on in your mind that made you want to go back to him even after what you went through? Because I mean, I know a lot of people, you know, a lot of women go through that. So
Yeah.
what was in your mind that you were feeling like you needed to be back with him, knowing that there's the possibility
yeah,
that same kind of abuse
yeah.
could be levied upon you again?
So at the time, I thought I was in love, and he was older than I. He was about 19 years older than me.
And you say you were 19 at the time?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's like 20, 27, 28 years old. And I thought I was in love. And so I ended up going with him. But then there was something else that happened. I saw him beat up one of his baby's mothers. And her aunt was there. And they couldn't do nothing with him. And nor could I. You know, so that's what scared me into like, hey, I can't stand this situation, and I definitely couldn't put my family in this situation because I don't see my family not intervening. You
And
know?
that sometimes is what happens, you know, in terms, say, with dads, brothers, cousins, sisters,
Yes.
you know,
Yes.
that sometimes get caught in the middle
Yes.
of a situation, a domestic situation.
Yeah.
And they, a lot of times, you want it to end peacefully, but sometimes it doesn't.
It doesn't. Yes.
And so when you said that your father and he had words, what became of that?
I don't know what the words were, but I know for the time that I was with him at that time, he never hit me again. And, you know, I don't know what my dad said to him, but he never hit me again. But I also knew that I had to get away from him, though, because, you know, if I was alone somewhere, you know, my family, I didn't want to go through that anymore. And I didn't want to put my family through a tragedy that, you know, that could have been an outcome.
So after that happened, what was your outlook on men, you know, at that time, after having been with him because how long were you with him in total?
I was with him for about a year.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah.
So when you came in contact with other men after him, did you kind of have a little bit of doubt as to how the relationship would go, or did you kind of think that there might be something that you might encounter again with the new person that you might be with? And then lastly, did you think that there might have been any fault in terms of, say, on why the abuse occurred that could have been your fault as opposed to his fault. I mean, did you think that it was something that you could have done different that could have stopped it, or do you think that he was just an abusive person, period, regardless of what you said or did?
Yeah, honestly, I thought that I didn't think it was anything that I had done, you know, because the situations that led up to the beating made me feel as though, you know, I wasn't at fault. But you know, I did, in the very beginning of our relationship, when it first happened, I did believe him when he said things like, "Oh, I'll never do that again," or he went and bought me an expensive gift or something like that.
Okay.
You know, I equated that to, oh, he loves me, you know.
So let's fast forward. So you've had children on your own,
Yes.
and so now, had you ever encountered anything like that again since you had left him?
Yes, I did have a couple of more bad situations, and you know, and eventually I did look up like that. That became one of my biggest red flags to when I was dealing with someone. It did lead me to not want to totally depend on a guy, as far as like if a guy was doing, because he was paying bills, he was pretty much taking care of me at the time. So it just pretty much made me be more and more of a person who took care of myself, and it made me look into guys if they said something, if they cussed me out, or if they did anything that I felt like would make them strike out at me, I would back up. Yeah, I would back up. So, but yes, I did go through it again after that.
So now, fast forwarding to today. So if there was advice that you would give to a young lady of, say, 19 right now, what advice would you give them?
The advice that I would give them is that, you know, an abuser, because this guy went on to do time for, he did end up killing someone after me, a young lady. He blew her brains out.
Did you know the young lady? Or?
No, it was
Okay.
someone that he was cheating on me with.
Okay.
And I would say if they show any signs of abuse, you know, 2 chances, 1, it's not going to get better. You know, just growing to be, I'm 52 now, and the experiences that I've went through and saw, and you know, and heard about, it's very late in life. You know, they almost have to be grandparents and great grandparents if they last, that they would, you know, that person is no longer an abuser because they can't anymore, or they finally outgrown that. It's just not a chance that you can take with your life. You know what I'm saying? If they are an abusive person, it's because they have their own insecurities, or they are just a violent person. You know, that's the experience. You know. And it's nothing that you can do but get away as soon as you can. You know, the love is not love. Love doesn't hurt like that. You know, if a man is abusive towards you, physically abusive, even emotionally abusive, that's not what love is. That's not what it talks about in Corinthians. That's not what real love is. So, yes.
So if when you look in terms of, say, now you've got twin daughters or twin
grandsons.
Twin grandsons.
Yes.
So what advice would you give them? Because, I mean, it's one thing for us to give advice to our girls,
Yes.
but what advice then would you give to the boys, to your twin boys, as to how to treat a young lady?
So I definitely make sure I let them know it's inappropriate to lay hands on a woman, on a young lady. Also teaching them the basics of how to treat a lady, open the door for her. Me and my daughter, we try and make sure that, you know, we teach them how to do things, you know. This is what you do for a young lady on Valentine's Day. Give them cards. Is it a special girl you like? You know, try and teach them the ways that, you know, young men are supposed to conduct themselves around young ladies, you know, in a non-violent way, you know.
So that's one of the key things, is to make certain in terms of, say, that you would want them to treat a woman the way that they would treat you.
Yes.
because that's one of the things that a lot of boys learn how to be gentlemen through the love that they have for their mothers.
Yes.
So that's, I think, one of the critical things right now is that when you see a lot of women now, and maybe you may subscribe to the same philosophy, that they choose a man that they may want to spend time with based on the time that he spends with his mother. And they listen to hear how their rapport is with their mother to kind of be able to kind of get an idea about what kind of rapport they may give
To you.
to you.
Yes. That is a very big indication for me, being a divorcee and also being a woman who have, went through relationships. I pay attention to how a man treats his mother and treats his parents as well. And I also pay attention to how he treats his children, if he has children, because I'm not going to get any more from him than he's given to them. And that is advice that I would give. Pay attention to how he treats the ones around him, the important people, the parents. The Bible says to honor your parents. So I think it's a big, not just to honor your mother, but I feel like, even honoring the parents, even if you don't have a great relationship with your parent, for, some reason or another. Me and my mom, we're not the closest mother and daughter, but I still honor my mother because she is the one who gave birth to me.
So
Yes.
in the minute that we've got left, looking at the healing, looking at what you've gone through, looking at the people that you've, had relationships with, looking at the people that you have brought on this earth, your
Yes,
sons, your sons and your daughter. Describe you in one sentence.
In one sentence, I would say that I have overcame a lot, and I am very much more happy today, and I know that going through it, I can definitely say that, there is an upside. It's a light at the end of the tunnel. It's definitely a light at the end of the tunnel.
Well, and that's the one thing that we hope and pray, that that light continues to shine,
Yes.
with you. And then now, just lastly, so now you're a nurse.
Yes.
And just basically, so you're giving the care to them that you may have needed back when you were growing up and when you had the situation where the abuse was, upon you. So have you ever had that encounter where you've seen any of your patients or anything like that may have come in with a black eye or any other type of abuse that you may have known that came from another person?
Yes. I've had situations where a patient, one of their children came in and abused them, and we could no longer have that person come to see them, or their spouse, has abused them, and we could no longer allow them in the building to come see them. Like, we would actually have to call the police or have called the police if they did show up at the facility.
And then
So,
my
yes.
then my other last question is that then, so has it been difficult for you not to want to give them advice after having gone through what you've gone through?
It's not advice because I mostly deal with the elderly, but I kind of jump into, I just want to keep them safe. At that point, I just want to keep them safe at all costs, whatever we can do to make sure that this person is safe. That's how I look at it,
Yeah, because that's a tough something to do,
Yeah,
right
yeah.
there. But Diane, I am so thankful that you came and got a chance to go and give your testimony,
Thank you.
about what has happened with you. Hopefully, some young ladies or some young men will hear what you had to say, and hopefully will not have to go through the pain that you went through. And then hopefully a young man will hear what you went through and not put that kind of pain on someone else. And then the other thing too is that as you and I both know, and hopefully, our listening audience knows and our viewing audience as well, that a lot of times the repercussions come from things and actions that you do today. The repercussions may come tomorrow or next week or next year. So what we ask people to do is think about what you say, think about what you do before you do it.
Before you do it.
Because what a lot of people don't do is they don't process it here before it comes out of their mouth or
Yes.
becomes out of their fists or their hands
Yes.
or other actions that may occur, with
Yes.
someone. So, and the main thing is that what I know what you've gone through, what other people have gone through, it's like a lot of times you have to process it before you take action upon it. Diane Shepherd, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you for
Expose
the
Under the
invite.
Sun today with us today.
Thank you
And
so
sharing
much.
your testimony. You've been watching Expose Under the Sun, sponsored by the Detroit Native Sun newspaper. If you'd like to get a copy of the Detroit Native Sun newspaper, you can contact Ms. Valerie Lockhart at area code 313-457-5944. Again, if you'd like to go and publish a ad in the paper, you can contact her for the same reason. Again, have a great rest of this afternoon, and let someone know that you love them. Peace.
Here at the Full and Fabulous Curvy Girl Project, we don't just focus on health, beauty, and self-esteem. We also offer an amazing summer program for young ladies ages 12 to 18. For more information, visit our website at fullandfabulous.org. See you soon.